Okay, guys, Wade from 7 p.m. prayer here. We're on day 3 of With Christ in the School of Prayer with Andrew Murray. This guy's got a lot of books out, and remember, these were written back in most of them in the late 1800s. So I love learning from people from a long time ago. Like I mentioned in an earlier video, they tend to have something to say. They didn't just write a book to make a buck. And there's nothing wrong with making money. I'm glad that a lot of the people that write books can, because then they can put more time into it rather than having to work a job and write the book on the side. But back in these days, this guy was like a minister, and he wrote this book just because he had something to say about the world of prayer, and he had a lot of books about the world of prayer. So again, one of my reasons for liking these older books so much is that they're very simplistic. And that's where I'm at with this. I just don't think that prayer is supposed to be complicated. I think it's supposed to be really, really straightforward. I think of it a lot as just a kid asking their parents or talking to their parents about important things. That's almost never a complicated thing. So let's go over what we've got here in chapter 3. And this weekend, I don't typically make videos on the weekend, but I'll probably just kind of do a quick synopsis of what we've covered. Again, it's very straightforward, but I want to keep people on the same page. And I recognize that not a lot of people are looking at this right now, but I've been told, and kind of just studying up on all this myself, that it may be that 6 months from now, all of a sudden, this stuff's going to get found and there'll be people looking at it. So again, I haven't gone at this with the idea of having X number of people see it. If I can get one person praying more, then it was time well spent. So this particular chapter is about Jesus teaching his apostles about the model prayer, which is what the Lord's Prayer, what Catholics would call the Our Father. The two main things that I got out of this chapter were, number one, this is really Jesus is introducing people to the idea of talking to God like he's their father, like he's their dad. I mean, when you read the Old Testament, they didn't speak of God in that way. There wasn't that type of a relationship as being understood with God. So when all of a sudden the disciples ask Jesus how to pray, and he starts out with Our Father who art in heaven, when the word he uses in Hebrew for father is much like what we would use as like our dad. So it's a very close family reference. It's not, some kind of a CEO, type deal. It's as a friend, as a father, as a dad. So that's a whole new situation in terms of people looking at God as someone that personally close to them. The second thing that he really focuses here in this chapter on is how when you look at that model prayer, everything is focused on God first. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. So it's all geared towards God on the front end. And I know in many cases, I've tried to develop a habit myself of when I start praying, it's easy to get started on the things you want, the things you need, and the observations you've made about society or whatever that you think need to be taken care of. But the bottom line is that we want God to know how much we appreciate him, how much we love him, and that we're looking for his help here. Because that's the bottom line, is prayer is an act of humility. We're coming to God because we have needs and things that we can't handle. And he wants to hear those, because the assumption is we're directing them to him because he can handle them. So we start out directing things towards him in a matter of gratitude, in a matter of thanksgiving, in a matter of directing our will to saying, we want what you want right here on this earth. Then we come around to all the things directed towards us and the needs that we have and such. So that to me was just a reminder as I do my own praying that when I first show up, talk to God about, how much I need him and how much I appreciate him. My son and I used to do what we called thankful prayers. And sometimes we just, before we went to bed at night, we just do back and forth, like, I thank God for this. And I'd say, I thank God for that. And I'd say, I thank God for this. And we wouldn't let ourselves even ask for anything. We would just go through the thank yous. So, and that's not a bad thing, Trust me, we had other prayers where we were praying for things. But, the bottom line is if we can remember, thanks to Jesus, we now have a personal relationship with God. He's not someone out there on high that we don't have access to. Only the high priest does every once in a while. We all do. He wants us to, and he's our Father. Then as we come before him, an acknowledgement of just kind of like, hey, Mom, Dad, when you're starting to talk to them, an acknowledgement of, hey, you're the guy. And just, showing respect and honor and what a privilege it is to deal with him. And then we put our own petitions and things like that before him. So anyway, that's chapter 3. I'll be going on to chapter 4 tomorrow. Remember, 7 p.m. tonight, we all Christians pray together, and we're building the unity, and I appreciate you guys.